Hi guys, if you're a parent or therapist or a teacher, you already know that teaching your child motor skills is a vital part of their learning and development, not just for the coordination and skills and independence and handwriting, but also for their confidence and self-esteem as well. But you also probably know it can be really stressful and frustrating for the child and the teacher at times. So I don't think I'm a very exceptional therapist in most ways, but if there's one thing I do really well, I like to think it's in finding the fun and manufacturing motivation in even the trickiest of tasks. So today, with a little help from my friend Gary, that's Gary, we're going to show you some of my favorite tricks and techniques to make learning motor skills a lot less stressful and much more enjoyable for you and that child. Wait a second. Before I go any further, why bother with any of this? Well, in any OT session I have, the first thing I look for is a child who's trying their best. And fun is by far and away the quickest way to get there. Now, this isn't just because it's easier to teach a kid who's emotionally invested, and it's a more pleasant experience that they want to repeat again, but in terms of occupational performance, in terms of how well they do and how quickly they learn, the benefits for a motivated child versus a disengaged, unmotivated child is leagues apart. Sometimes I'll go into a classroom or someone will send me a video of a child working to demonstrate, oh look at their poor scissor skills or poor coordination, and the child is looking around, not really paying attention, going through the motions. How would you have any idea what their abilities are? They're totally phoning it in. They're not trying their best, and that's what I want to see, okay? I want them to show me what they can do, and then I can adapt the activity and select things to improve those skills. But first and foremost, a child is trying their best, and fun is how we get there. So these 5 techniques are how to make that easy. So without further ado, here are the 5 little tips I use to find the fun. Now I call these the 5 S's to make it easy to remember. So they are, something could be silly, surprising, sounds, sensory, and specific to the interest of the child, okay? Let's go through these one at a time and see how you can use those to spice things up and find the fun in any task. So number 1 is something that's silly. Now, why silly? The rest is not a hierarchy at all. I'll pick and choose from any of them, but I'll almost always try and make something a little bit silly, and there's a good reason for that. It's not to be super silly and like make the child laugh. No, this is important. I choose silly because silly is the opposite of scary. For a lot of my kids, especially those that struggle with motor skills, they'll come into an activity, especially something new they haven't experienced before, with this little bit of anxiety, a little task hesitation and fear of failure, or even fear of making a mistake. I don't want them to have any of that emotional baggage coming into it. So if something's silly, there's no stakes. There's nothing to lose really. Something silly, it doesn't matter if they make a mistake, it's part of the learning process. So that's why I'll always try and make something really silly, really fun and engaging right from the beginning. So silly, number 1, silly, not scary. So item number 2 is surprising. This is anything that's slightly different, slightly unusual. Just so they say, that's interesting. I want to know more. I want to see where this is going. So this could be something like an everyday item, seen in an unusual way. It could be something they've done before, like a writing page, but instead of on the table, it's on the wall or even under the table, so they have to lie on their back. Maybe they're balancing on one leg or closing their eyes. Maybe they have socks on their hands so they don't have fingers or thumbs. A little bit unusual, a little bit surprising, so we think, that little spark of curiosity, and then you're off to the races. Item number 3 is sounds. Now I have 3 parts of this. This can be story, so I build a narrative into the task. You'll see that with Gary a little in minutes. There is song. Maybe I'm working with a younger little client. I'm going to build in a nursery rhyme to the movements to give some rhythm and some kind of predictability to what we're about to do and make it more enticing as well. So story, song, and sounds like sound effects. Gary the gorilla will have my gorilla sound effects, which are fantastic, I don't mind saying. Or maybe I'm doing line formation, making zoom, zoom, zoom noises. Maybe I'm cutting with scissors and it's chomp, chomp, chomp. Anything to add a little bit more like auditory zest to make the activity come alive just a little bit more with that sound. Story, song, and sound effects. Item number 4 is sensory. Now, this is getting into the good stuff. This is very OT. So making the activity more sensory or more multi-sensory not only makes it more engaging and captivating, but it actually helps the child really embed those motor plans really well. For example, you can play with temperature, texture, weight, smell, anything to just make it more impactful an experience. For example, maybe instead of throwing and catching like a regular football, they're going to throw and catch like a slightly heavier weighted ball to make it more, to feel more. Instead of writing on normal pen and paper, put a little bit of sandpaper under it so they get more impact, they get more sensation of it. Doing water play, you might have cold water and hot water. You might bring in smells and different textures and feels to the activity. But sensory is that little bit of like occupational spice you put on the activity to make it way more fun and way more engaging. And number 5 is specific. So specific to the interests and passions of the child. So if I have a kid who's into Fortnite or Minecraft, that's almost all of my kids, I'll find a way to integrate that into it. So instead of doing, we'll see Gary the Gorilla in a minute, if I know the kid has like an action figure they really love, I'll kidnap their little action figure and he'll get captured instead. So he already has an emotional investment in the task. Maybe we're just doing something as easy as handwriting practice. Not very motivational, but if we're answering Fortnite related questions about what name this Fortnite skin or what's this area of the map, they have to answer the questions there. They're automatically a little bit more involved in what the task is. So passions, interests that are specific to what that child's already emotionally excited about. So what we have, that's 5 ways to find the fun. Make it silly, surprising, use sounds like story, song, or sound effects, add the sensory zest, and make it specific to the needs and passions of the child. If they have those and a clear objective they understand working towards, and it's graded to be accessible, that just right level, then you have the fun, clear, accessible, Adam's 3 laws, and I guarantee you it's going to be a good learning experience and an enjoyable one too. If we look at Gary the Gorilla, the activity for Gary the Gorilla, he's caught by the baddies, by the poachers. They've captured him and tied him up. My little buddy has to rescue him within, sometimes they'll use a time limit, sometimes they won't. And it's quite a trying activity. So they can't just pull and haul, they have to see which bands are there. I can make it easier by having fewer or thicker bands. I can make it harder by having small bands that are all one uniform color, but it is silly and surprising. I'll say, my friend Gary really needs your help. This is Gary, he's a gorilla. I'll do sound effects. Fantastic, I know. I can tell you're impressed. I will make it sensory sometimes. Gary will have a shower or a bath and maybe they tranquilize them, putting some like shaving foam on her, and it makes it slippy and much more difficult, but also more sensorially interesting. I will have, what else? You have the story of him being captured by the baddies, the sound effects of the gorilla, and specific to the child. Maybe if it wasn't Gary, I'll take one of their little action figures and they got captured instead, okay? So all of it, that's why this is such a nice little activity and why I wasn't going to use Gary. I posted him on Instagram a few days ago and he's by far and away the most popular post I've done all year. So Gary, you the real MVP. Thank you, sir. Okay, but that's it, guys. So those 5 little tips, how to find the fun. Let me know if they work for you, if you have any of your own. There's way more than that, but those are my go-tos I use all the time. And they work for me for 10 years. I hope they work for you too. Thank you so much, guys. Remember, if you like these videos, give us a like and a subscribe. Please do share them to any other parents or teachers or therapists you think might find them useful. And for this week, that's me, Adam the OT.